Welcome to the Executive Hub, the show that helps you grow your business with simple tips and strategies from successful entrepreneurs. I have another amazing guest today. My guest is Steve Huber. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on the show. We're talking about why most sales managers fail and how to avoid it. We're having a conversation about sales, which is near and dear to my heart. It's a problem that almost every business has. And we're going to talk about how to fix that and talk about sales. Let me do the proper introduction to Steve, and we're going to dive into a great sales conversation. So most sales managers land the job by accident, and Steve Huber knows that story well. On his honeymoon, working in a restaurant with no sales experience, and a year later, he's running a sales team with zero training, and it was a disaster. He struggled, burnt out, and he walked away. But round two was different. In the solar industry, Steve rebuilt with systems, data, and a focus on hiring top talent. The result? $2 billion in sales, national awards, and a proven formula for building winning teams. Today, he is here to help you do the same. Steve, how was your day so far? Oh, we missed him. All right, we'll hang out until he gets back. I think maybe he clicked on the wrong button. There he is.
There we are. You got me back?
Oh, good. Hey, how was your day so far?
Oh, it's going great. It's going great. We got funky weather going on here, so hopefully my internet quality is great. But it's been working all day. But yeah,
Beauty. We're good. Where about are you?
I live on the Oregon coast, so almost in Washington. And yeah, you go to Portland, go to the coast, and that's where I'm at.
How far are you from Seattle?
About 3 hours.
All right, that's not bad. That's not bad. And that how long is that? 5 hours to Vancouver, BC?
Yeah, probably something like that. Yeah,
okay.
It depends. You know, it's a lot of back roads and a lot of pine trees we got to drive through. So hopefully there's not a tree in the road, but assuming we got a good drive, about 5.
Have you ever been to Canada?
I have. I went to Victoria actually, which was
nice,
super pretty. It was amazing.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, so let's dive into it. Sales and the rest of it. Tell us your story. What is your story, Steve?
Yeah, so like you said, I was working in a restaurant, and I had somebody come in, said, "Hey, you'd be great at sales. You got to come in and interview for us," and basically started off selling life insurance, and that's how I got into sales, was selling life insurance, and did okay at it. I was like 21 at the time, trying to tell people about what was going to happen when they died, and they asked me to open up an office, and literally just moved me to Portland and threw me in an office and said, "Good luck, figure it out." And I hated it. I didn't know how to manage people at the time. I didn't know how to manage sales folks at the time. I did it for 7 years and got super burnt out. Literally turned my phone off, put it in my desk drawer in my kitchen, and just stopped managing. And I got a desk job back selling again. I just wanted to sell personally, and that's how I got started in the solar business. And from there, grew a team and ended up working for the last decade, building the largest privately held contractors in the United States. And today I run a company that helps other contractors do the same thing.
Beautiful story. And then, so what inspired you to get started in what you're doing now?
Yeah, I saw that there's so many great contractors out there that do just phenomenal work. They're craftsmen. They wake up every day. They work really hard for their customers, but they're not the big ones. The big contractors are the guys that know how to sell, and they know how to package things together for their customers. And so I really had a problem with the fact that the very best contractors were not growing the businesses that they should. They weren't able to communicate value to their customer. And so I thought, hey, there needs to be somebody that can come in and help these guys, help these real pros put together great sales programs and develop great programs for their customers and for their employees. And so that's how I got the idea.
Beautiful. So you serve contractors in general, right? Is this construction contractors or any other type of contractors?
Residential home services companies. So this would be solar, roofing, HVAC, plumbing, fences. We've done it all.
Beautiful. And what do you do for these guys?
Yeah, so there's three main areas that contractors kind of go through. One is foundations, and that's making sure that we have good foundations in place to grow. So a lot of contractors will reach out to us and say, "Hey, we want to grow and scale the company," but they really don't have the foundations in place to do that. So I say it's like having a Lamborghini with a flat tire. It doesn't make sense to go super fast with a flat tire. You're just going to crash harder. We got to fix the tire first. So foundations is one of the places that we begin, and it's making sure that we have good comp plan, good legal structure, good processes and systems in place. Phase two is really growing, and that's where we help hire people and bring people in and build some structure around hiring and scaling. And then once we kind of have all that going, it's really about optimizing and making sure that we have, little differences at that point make a big impact. So making sure that we have good systems in place, we're saving money in the places we can save money, and taking good care of our customers. So we look at really where our contractors want to go, and then we help identify the holes for them that are holding them back from getting there, and then come up with a plan to fix those.
Love it. And is there like a typical size of companies that you work with?
Yeah, I'd say normally, our customers, we've worked with companies that do hundreds of millions of dollars a year worth of business. We work for companies that are just starting out. But I'd say kind of like our sweet spot is going to be 5 million and up in revenue. Is a pretty good place for us.
Beauty. And then, so what is the problems these guys have when you go in, and how do you help them solve it?
Yeah, there's gosh, that's a good question. There's a lot of them. So, again, we try to focus on the sales side. So
Yeah.
I'd say one of the big areas that we see is, when you start a company, you are the salesperson. You're the very first salesperson the company ever has. And so you go out, you sell your company, you sell your product, you understand it really well. And so you start growing, but you've not actually systematized anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it comes time to hire somebody else in because you have a company to run. You can't be the sales guy anymore, but you don't have any processes in place. You don't have any systems in place. Everything is inherited knowledge because you're close to it. And so that really is step one, is just kind of getting everything out of your brain into a process so that we can start training others. And then a lot of times in that process, Mustafa, there's a lot of holes that exist that you're not even aware of because you're close to the problem. And so we can look at those holes with you and say, hey, why do you do things this way? And a lot of times there's not a good answer for why it's done that way. So just creating some structure is really a good place where we see most of our contractors struggle.
Beauty. And do these guys have to have like a sales manager, or do you like help them, hire a sales manager, or how do you go about that?
Yeah. So we have some of our contractors are looking to bring in a sales manager. And again, they're just not in a good place to do that today because they don't have a process and system in place to do it. And so we will help define that process and help bring somebody in for them, and then help onboard them. So one of the things that we do very uniquely is we're very hands-on with all of our clients. And so we will help, in some cases, recruit, train, onboard that sales manager along with you, right? I'd say other companies are struggling. They may have a sales manager today that's really struggling to get things going, and they'll have us come in and basically help transition that old leadership out, create stability in a program, and then bring new leadership in. And we do that quite often as well.
Beautiful. Like I think having a sales team makes a huge difference in businesses, because in a lot of small businesses, what I've seen is, like you said, the owner is usually running around being the chief everything officer, and they manage A to Z. So, and then I think for what I've seen, and you correct me if I'm wrong, they go from the cycle of they focus on sales and marketing, find a few customers, then they switch to serving those customers. They lack on sales, and they're constantly going back and forth. But I think bringing a sales manager or a salesperson to begin with would help them get off that, that the role of sales and marketing, and focus on something. And what's your experience with that?
Yeah, 100%. You have to, you want to work on your business, not in your business, right?
Right.
And so that's where you begin. And so for a contractor, what this could look like is literally they're waking up at 5 a.m. They're driving to their job site, they're getting materials, they're doing all those things, and then at night they're selling the jobs, and then they wake up the next morning and they go do it all over again. And you get burnt out real fast working that kind of life, but you also just never get out of it. You get stuck. And we actually have a term for it. We call it the sales abyss. And you fall into this abyss that you can't get out of, and you just get stuck selling all your jobs, building all your jobs. And it's really damaging. It's really, really hard to grow the company if that's how you're operating all the time. I would add in too that we as salespeople, we have a certain way that we like to sell and a certain way that we like to interact with customers and things that we get comfortable with. And when you don't have anybody else come in and any outside perspective, you can get stuck selling the way that you are accustomed to selling.
Got it. For some reason, your picture got stuck for me. Am I stuck too on your screen? All right. So as we wait for him to come back, if you guys have any questions about sales management and about managing your sales altogether, put them in the chat box, and we'll do our best to answer your questions about sales and sales management. All right, now I can see you're moving, which is great. Steve, give us an example of a client you work with. What was the challenge that they had, and how did you help them out, and what are they experiencing now or when you help them fix this stuff?
Yeah. One that comes to mind is a company that they had a sales leader in place that just had no processes, and they were really, really unhappy with him. And so we had to move him out, which basically means the company had to let him go. I came in and we created stability in that sales team. So it was like, hey, don't everybody freak out. We're here. We're going to help you out. And it was rather eye-opening when we got in there and started cracking the hood on where the problems lied. They had no processes, and because they had no processes, they didn't know that they were leaking money out all over the place. And so one of our first orders of business was really cleaning up who was a good sales rep, who wasn't a good sales rep, putting systems in place to help them track and manage those folks, and then rebuilding the team. And within 30 days, we had doubled the sales team, doubled the efficiency of the sales team, and put a track in place to double sales throughout the year, which was pretty phenomenal. And I think there's this shift psychologically that happens too, from, man, I hate my sales team, and why aren't they managed great, and I don't know what they're doing. And all of a sudden the owners of that company are like, wow, like this feels like we run a real company, feels like we're organized. I feel good about putting money into marketing and advertising because I know I have a sales team on the back end that can catch it. That one was pretty impactful because we had a good team and a good company. We just had bad leadership in there, and getting them out and replaced and getting that sales team the leadership that they deserved was really something that we were proud of.
Love it. You talked about identifying what I would say good or bad salespeople in a team. Can you give us some tips for that on how to identify, good players, not so good players? And
Yeah. Sales is it's a mindset sport. It really is. So to be great on my team, and maybe I have different recommendations and things that other people would, but you have to have a great attitude. That's where it begins, is a culture of respect, and it's respect for everybody. It's respect for our operations crews. It's respect for our customers. It's respect for our owners that are putting money and investment into things. And so you have to have a great attitude about what you do. And then you have to be a professional. Pros show up on time. They get back to emails. They do the things that professionals do. Obviously you have to sell to be able to be in sales. And so we look at results, managing results quite a bit. But, you could be, even if results are phenomenal, if you're not professional, you're not respectful, you're not taking good care of everybody, you're not going to be on my team very long. And that's how we operate.
Yeah, love it. Attitude, being a professional, and being able to sell. Have you ever seen a salesperson say, I don't want to appear salesy?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have a slogan that we use, and I can't take credit for it. It was a sales trainer, Jerry Layau, who's sadly passed away a couple of years ago. But it's attitude plus activity plus skills equals success. And so, if you have attitude, activity, and skills, you're usually going to be successful. And that's what we look for when we hire people: is attitude, activity, and skills.
Beauty, beauty. What would you say are some of the mistakes that companies make when it comes to hiring or setting a sales manager?
Gosh, that's a great question. So many companies they hire a sales manager in without ever really understanding what the process should be to begin with. And I think that's probably where I see most people get off the rails, especially companies, is they can't manage the sales manager because they've not defined what the sales manager should be doing and what the goal is. And so what ends up happening is the sales manager will be like, no, this is how it is. We're doing a great job. In reality, they're doing a horrible job, but you don't know because you don't, maybe you're not in sales, or again, you've not clearly outlined the goals. So I think that's probably one of the big ones, is just making sure that you have really clear expectations of what everybody needs to do and what the goal is. And then you have, as an owner, you need to have some knowledge of how sales operates and how your sales program should be operating so that you can manage the manager. And again, that's one of the things we see quite often, and we have to come in it with, is we may have an owner that doesn't know how to sell at all, and doesn't know what it should look and feel like, and has never been a part of a real sales team. And so we have to come in and say, I have bad news for you. What Jeff is doing is not normal. The way that he's running your sales team is not how this should operate. And so the reason you've been losing money for so long is because Jeff doesn't actually know what he's doing. And you don't know how to mentor him because you've never been a part of it.
You don't know either.
Yeah, you don't. Nobody knows what's supposed to happen and how it's going to look. And so we can't mentor Jeff or manage Jeff because nobody understands here what that should look like and how it should operate.
So let's say I run a team, I have a business, and I have a Jeff running my sales team. What are some of the things that I should look for that tells me Jeff has no clue what he's doing?
I would say constant turnover is a great one.
Like team members are just...
Yeah. If you got salespeople that are constantly cycling in and out of your team, that's a good sign. If you are having trouble recruiting, that should be a sign to you that the salespeople in your market know that Jeff doesn't know what he's doing and don't want to come work for you. Like, they all know the secret that you don't know yet. Okay. And, we had a company where the VP of sales had not hired a salesperson in 6 years. 6 years they didn't hire somebody, which is crazy to me. And, if that's happening, nobody wants to come work for you. It's because they all know. They all know that Jeff doesn't know what he's doing and they don't want to work for Jeff. Obviously, things like missing goals constantly. If you are constantly missing goals, you've got a problem in sales. And I'd say those are the big ones. There's a lot of other indicators that we can go through and metrics that we look at. But just a high level, I can't hire anybody, I can't keep anybody, and I can't hit my goals. Something is broken heavily somewhere. And if you don't know what it is, you need to get somebody in there to fix it, because it's not going to fix itself. You're going to have to identify what that problem is.
Beautiful. Can you give us some tips on hiring a good sales team?
Yeah.
And maybe what sales managers should maybe look for? And
yeah. So if you go back to that, attitude plus activity plus skills equals success. So it all starts with attitude, and you have to have a winning attitude to be a good salesperson. I have never in my life have I met a great salesperson that was negative. Negative about what was going to happen and about the position, about the job. So if I interview somebody and they are negative right off the bat, that's a pretty bad sign that they're not going to be good at what they do. Activity means that we're doing the right things and we're making the right activity. So for me, I'll give you an example. When a sales rep sends a follow-up email or is following up with me after an interview, those are sales activities that I look for. So if you have an interview with me and then immediately after you say, hey, Steve, thanks so much for the time today. Maybe tomorrow you follow back up with me. Those are all great activity indicators that this person understands how the sales activities are supposed to work for them to be successful. And then skills is really, it's talking. It is making sure that we are friendly, that we understand positioning. And, those are things that are fairly easy to teach, which is why they make sales trainers. But if you give me somebody that has great activity and a kind of a nose for activity, Mustafa, I freeze again?
Yes, I noticed.
All right, hold on one second. I don't know what's going on today.
It's all good. Yeah. So while we're waiting, I mean, having the hiring the right sales people and the right sales team is crucial. I mean, if you're hiring and you're paying for salespeople, you got to hire the right people. Otherwise, you just don't want, I guess, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong. You just don't want to hire random people and hope that they're going to do a good job. You want to do the right hire, like take your time and do the right hire.
Yeah, 100%. And if you've made a bad hire, which we all do from time to time, then deal with it. Don't let them go on for months on end, and get that out of your team immediately as fast as you can. Yep.
Oh yeah. So you were saying, sorry, we got caught off there.
Yeah.
The attitude was right. Okay, let me ask a question on that. Follow up on the attitude. How do you identify good attitude? Because the reason I asked that question is sometimes you see people, they show up, they're smiling and all dressed up, and you can't really tell much about their attitude with one conversation. Or is there a trick to tell?
I think there's a couple different ways that you can help spot it. So one is in their resume. So if I see somebody that's got constant job turnover over and over and over again, that's a pretty good sign to me that they can't handle, those kind of slower periods that we all face in sales. So sales, if you think about it, and this pretty much goes for every job too, the most excited you're ever going to be is probably during that interview or day one. You don't know the problems yet. You don't know the boss is a jerk and the phone rings at midnight and you're going to get a bunch of emails. You don't know any of that stuff yet. You're just positive and excited. And so you kind of get into the job. Then the reality hits that, oh my gosh, this is an actual job and I've got work and it has problems that I have to deal with. And so if somebody is constantly turning over at jobs every 6 months or every year,
yeah,
you almost see it where it's like, hey, you were super excited, you came in, and then you had to deal with like the real work, and you were like, oh, this company stinks, I'm out of here. Now you're on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. It's not a company problem, it's a you problem. And so that's usually a good indicator of attitude and how they're going to handle adversity. And then the next one again is just how they interact with you. Are they excited about life? Are they upbeat? Is this somebody that I would want to hang out with?
Yeah.
If I have to sit in the car with you for a 5-hour car ride, am I going to be pulling my hair out halfway through? Or am I going to be like, Mustafa seems like a pretty nice guy. He's being positive about things. I think he's going to better my life. If the answer is, I want to sit in the car with him because he seems like fun or she seems like fun, that's probably a pretty good indicator. If the answer is no, I don't want to do that, you're probably
100%.
Yep.
That's a good one. Something I've seen is something I pay attention to when I interview people is if they show up on time or if they've showed up like 5-10 minutes before the interview. And if someone shows up late to the interview, that's an instant no-go for me. Unless they've given me notice ahead of time that something has happened and they're going to be late. But typically if someone shows up late,
100%. 100%. And I think in sales, we're perception, and so if I want to be a pro, it means that I'm perceived as a pro, and you have to show up on time. You have to be professional in the way that you conduct yourself and handle yourself. And if you can't do that for your interview, you're probably not going to do it 6 months down the road when those problems start hitting, and maybe you're not so excited. So, you have to be 100% during the interview for me at the little things. Otherwise, I don't have confidence you're going to do it 6 months from now when again, things get tough.
Yeah, I mean, if you do that on an interview, I can guarantee you.
It never works out. It never does. Yeah. You know,
You don't care to be on time for the interview. I can almost guarantee they're not going to be on time for work.
you've also set the stage that it's okay. You're like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's okay to show up late. It's okay
yeah,
not to do anything. Like, and you know, again, just one of those things that I see when we walk in with that fresh perspective. You know, we'll have a sales meeting. It's one of the first things we do with our crew. Let's get a sales meeting together, especially in like transitional times. And I've had times where half the sales team shows up to the sales meeting. I go, what is happening here? They're like, oh, well, that's just kind of how they've always done it. Well, that's not how we're gonna do it. Like,
yes.
again,
So
you
the
have
other
to,
half of the team just didn't feel like showing up.
what's that?
The other half of the team didn't feel like showing up.
They were allowed to not show up for
Oh,
years,
okay.
and you know, sometimes it's helpful to have the new sheriff come into town and say, no, we're not going to
No.
operate that way anymore. We're gonna
Yeah.
get our stuff together.
If you don't show up to the meeting, just don't show up.
You
That's
know,
it.
we're working hard to rebuild the company for you. We're marketing. You got all these support people over here, and you can't even show up for a meeting on time, or
Oh
show
yeah.
up for a week when we have a meeting, which is ridiculous.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Steve, what I know there are people that do sales training, and you probably have not probably you do have competition out there. What makes you guys different compared to other trainers?
Yeah, great question. So, sales trainers in general fall into two different buckets. One is either they have their system that is what they do, and by the way, I've hired both of these people before for my teams because it's always nice to have an outside perspective come in. But there are two big challenges. One was either they come in with their system and it's my way or the highway. You're going to say these words, do this thing. We're going to follow this process, or I won't work with you. And the challenge there is that every company is unique. Every company has a story. Every company has a culture. Every business owner has their business that they want to run. And it may not be my out of the box system, right? And so implementation was really hard, and adoption was really hard, especially if you already have an existing sales team. To get them to abandon everything that they've done and switch over to a new system can be challenging. The And so that was problem number one. Problem number two is there's other sales trainers that are like, watch this video and take this course, and that's going to teach you everything you need to know. And you know, I've managed 150 person sales teams before. So if I go watch a sales course, I now have to turn to these 150 people and say, great job, team. There's a new way we're going to do this, and try and get them all to switch over to it. And so again, implementation and adoption is a big challenge for sales leaders in general. And so what we do is we help the sales leadership, and whether that's the owner or you have a sales manager that we put in place, work systematically to make those changes happen, as opposed to just hoping that they happen. There's so many good intents that are out there that never get executed on, and we
Yeah.
want to do that. We want to say, hey, we're actually going to make a real change. We're going to come up with a roadmap to do that. We're going to hold everybody accountable and put deadlines in place to do that. And we're here to help hold your hand to implement those things and make sure that they happen.
So is it like they go through the training together instead of the manager going through the training?
We go through a systems basically overhaul in a lot of cases. So what we do is we will identify, here's the things that need to change and that you want to have change. So whether it's adding a new product line in, or again, we're starting fresh, here's all the steps that are needed to get there. And then we systematically break that down. Training the sales team is one of those pieces, but it's also making sure that we follow up on that training, that we have support for the new systems that rolled out, that we have a vision for why we're making those changes, right? And making sure that we actually have an implementation plan to do that. So we're very hands-on with our clients and our customers, and making sure that they are actually going to do the things that they need to do, not just another thing that, you know, a hope and dream that they have someday. We want to make sure that the change happens for them, and that we are there to assist as things need to change. You know, sometimes you have a great plan in place, and life has a funny way of throwing curveballs at you, and you have to deal with those roadmaps and hiccups when they come up.
Beautiful. Steve, give us some of the milestones that you guys have achieved along the way while building your business.
Yeah. So, I think I'll just spout out a couple here real quick. Oh, did I freeze again?
So, oh, there he's back. Beauty.
I don't know what's going on with my internet today, but it's
All
giving me
good.
a So we've taken teams from, and again, every team's different, every company's different, but literally startup to $40 million a year in sales 1 year. We've been able to do that. We've been
1 year.
1 year, 0 to 40 mil. Now you have to have
Wow.
a company that can support that. So I don't want everyone to listen to this and be like, oh my gosh, I can go start a company tomorrow and do 40 million. This is a brand new division within a company. We took them from 0 to 40 million. And what was pretty cool is we did it with no ad spend. We just looked at where all the holes were at. And this company had a pretty big hole and said, hey, let's build a team to fix that, which was pretty cool. We've been on the Inc. My teams have been on the Inc. 5000 list 7 times. We won the Owens Corning Dealer of the Year award 3 times. #1 solar plus storage contractor 3 times in the United States. And we've done over $2 billion worth of residential home improvement projects in the last 10 years. So
Very nice.
we've certainly learned a lot along the way. We've learned a lot of what not to do. And we've learned a lot of what works as well, and what it should look and feel like when it's operating correctly.
Beautiful. Well, those are a lot of achievements. The 0 to 40 million by filling out the holes. That's impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying that was fun. We had a good time doing that.
Oh yeah. What are some of the challenges that you faced while reaching those milestones?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest challenge is making sure that our owners are in a good mindset and that they have a winning attitude about doing the things that need to be done. So, when you've tried something repeatedly and you've failed at it, it becomes like impossible at some point. You're like, nobody can do this. It's not even possible to pull this off. And then somebody comes in and says, hey, this actually is possible and we can do this. You have to get out of your own way. And I have this happen, I had this happen in my own business, and I had a mentor that came to me and he said, Steve, you're part of the problem. And you have to realize that. And it gets really hard for you to self-identify the problems if you are the problem. And I think that's one of the big things our owners struggle with is, again, just realizing that they're part of the problem as well. And their mindset shift is a challenge. So if you don't want to win and you don't want to grow a big company, then don't try and grow a big company. Be fine with the smaller company that you are. If you want to grow and build a big company, you have to realize that there's going to be challenges in doing that, but it's very, it is accomplishable. You can do it.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, how big is that problem of getting the owner out of the way with the mindset stuff?
It can be challenging for sure. It definitely can be. And I think, we have to have some hard conversations every now and then and say, hey, the reason this has not happened is because of you. and those are never fun. Nobody likes to have those conversations, but we owe it to our clients to have those conversations. And we all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses. And so, you may be awesome at running Excel sheets and running financials. You may be awesome at networking, but you're not awesome at building and managing a sales team. And that's okay. We just need you to go do what you're great at and get somebody here that is really good at this. And then again, make sure that person has mentorship and, and you have a way as the owner of realizing if they're doing a good job or a bad job.
Oh yeah.
And I just added here real quick. We do have sometimes we step into companies where the sales manager is doing an awesome job, but our owner doesn't know how to manage them or how to recognize that they're doing a good job. And we have to come in and say, hey, look, Jim's actually doing amazing for you. Your problem's not with Jim.
You're the
Your problem,
problem.
your problem's over here with something else. You know? Yeah, you're the problem. Leave Jim alone because if Jim quits, you ain't gonna find another Jim very easily. You know, and that can happen all the time too. You know, we see those challenges as well.
Oh yeah, I've seen that where the owner is actually the problem. they complain, they complain about their team, and they're like, this guy's not following my orders, and then we're like, you're actually not making sense.
Well, it's not just me. Yeah, it happens all the time, and you have to look at it and say, you're the problem here. You're the reason it's not going well.
And honestly, I'm not really good at conveying that message. I don't know how to say it.
It's never easy, but it just yeah, I think it's never easy, but we got to do
Yeah,
it.
for sure. Steve, what would you say is maybe holding your business back right now?
We want to do a phenomenal job for all of our clients, and it's very time intensive for us. So we do not like to, we're not trying to get 1,000. If you gave me 1,000 people today, I wouldn't even know what to do with them. And so we are very interested in working with the right folks, but it is time intensive. And so I'm trying to work on different ideas for ways that we can help more people, maybe at a lower level, and help get them pointed in the right direction. Again, there's so many causes that cause a lot of these issues that it can be hard to do, but I still want to help some people. So probably one of the best ways that we can do that is by giving people some goals and some roadmaps and some of these KPIs. So it's like, hey, I'm actually doing okay, or I'm actually not doing okay, and I need some help here. And so we're working on some of those things. But I'd say that's probably the biggest thing for us right now.
All right, fair enough. I think, yeah. I mean, teaching sales and implementing sales systems is a time-consuming process.
Yeah, and it's not we're not working really one-on-one with like a sales rep, like here's how you handle this objection. We're working at the company level saying here's how you structure a department.
Yeah,
And how to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. Especially when you look at those kind of things, there's legally things that are involved. There's oversight, management, hiring, onboarding. There's a lot of holes that you can have in that process that ultimately, create water out of the bottom of the bucket, if you will.
fantastic. Who's had a major influence on your business journey?
Gosh, I've been really blessed to work with some amazing people. When I got started in the solar business, I worked for a little mortgage company that was selling solar to their mortgage customers. And today, that little mortgage company grew into a company called GoodLeap, which is the largest lender of solar projects in the world.
Wow.
And the owner of that company, his name's Hayes Barnard. Hayes, again, started a mortgage company, and then he eventually got into solar. And today, Hayes is one of the 400 richest people in America. He was in the Forbes 400 list. So that was pretty cool for me to see a guy that, grew up without a lot of money, but just a lot of business savvy and a lot of energy. Really how he grew his company was very impactful for me. And he had a great culture there at Paramount in the early days. So, a lot of great people.
Yeah, I think it makes a huge difference to work with someone like that. I mean, once you learn the mindset, the process, the systems, the attitude, the energy, the whole thing, it makes a huge difference.
Totally. It's like I don't know what you had for a first car. My first car was a piece of junk. And I remember, when you buy like a nice car, you're like, wow, like, you mean it's not supposed to make that funny noise and it's not supposed to rattle over here?
Yeah.
And then if you go get back in a junky car again, you're like, wow, I kind of liked the nicer car. Like all those things start to point out to you. That's kind of what it's like when you work in an amazing company and amazing culture. You walk into companies that don't have that. And you're like, ugh, like there's some things that we could do here to fix and spruce this up, to make it look nice, because you've seen it. You've been in that nicer room.
Yeah. It makes a huge difference to what you might call it, have someone that you can learn from, and someone that is what you might call it, someone that they figured it out and you just learn it from them. And you better learn from someone that knows the right way, not like what I would call a bad mentor, you know.
Yeah, it's yeah, 100%. Hayes ended up selling that company for over $100 million, which is pretty cool. And like I said, today he's parlayed that into several other opportunities too. So you don't want to pick and choose who your mentor is going to be and who you take advice from, for sure.
Absolutely. If you had to give yourself advice to your younger self when you were starting your company, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a great one. I have a kind of motto that drives me today, I guess, and I wish I would have learned it a long time ago, and that is progress beats perfect. And I'm sure I heard it from somewhere, I don't know where, but just getting out and taking action is a great way to learn how to do things. And so if you're unhappy with something today, don't complain about it. Don't do nothing about it. Like, you either have to, if something's not the way you want it to be, you have two options. You either accept it for what it is, or you change it. That's it. Complaining about it does nothing. So, I think so often, and this was certainly me a long time ago, was I was so focused on everything had to be perfect that a lot of times it would freeze me from actually taking action on it. Whereas if I just take action on something, usually I'll get to the answer a hell of a lot faster than if I sit there and stew over it for years on end, not doing anything. So you just have to start and get going and refine over time.
Yeah, just get it started.
That's it.
I notice when I have to do something, when I just get it started, take the first step, everything else just falls through.
You have to at that point, right? You're like, I've already started the thing. I gotta get into it. So
I think the hardest part is just getting started. Sometimes.
Always.
Yeah. What does a typical day look like for you, Steve?
Yeah. So we have a lot of client meetings throughout the day. So throughout the day, we'll have structured 1-hour calls with all of our clients, and we go through planners and action cards and Trello boards and things like that with all of them. Outside of that, it is meeting with either new clients and customers and seeing if we have somebody that may be a good fit, meeting with my team members and my vendors that I use to pull through some of the deliverables for our clients. And then after work, I got 4 kids. So we're at baseball practice, we're running around, God forbid I can get on a walk or something like that myself, which is always nice. And we have quite a busy social calendar too. But yeah, this is probably a normal day for me.
Beautiful. Do you consider yourself a reader, a book reader?
I am more of a YouTube audiobook person. So
all right, fair enough.
Yep.
Give me 2 of your favorite books of all time.
Gosh, Good to Great by Jim Collins. Absolute must read. I love it. Yeah, phenomenal book. I love Alex Hormozi and all of his topics. So $100 million leads and $100 million offers, both have been phenomenal. And I'm still trying to getting the practice of those. And then I have a great sales book right behind me, The Joy of Closing by Bob King. Actually a sales rep that used to work with me. And he wrote a sales book, and it is phenomenal. It's about relationship building and rapport building, which is phenomenal.
Building. Yep, I've read the first 2. I literally gave Good to Great to one of my clients yesterday. We were working on their team, and they have like 3 not so great team members. And I'm like, you got to replace these people. And they're like, oh, we're just going to tolerate their bad behavior. Like, you're like running on a leaky tire, right? It's not, you can't race on that. Anyway, so I kept talking, and then finally yesterday, I'm like, just read this one chapter. I think the first chapter in Good to Great is about building the team first. So, great book. Great. Gang, if you haven't read that book, Good to Great, Hormozi's offer and lead books are amazing. And The Joy of Closing, I look forward to checking that out.
Yeah, it's kind of a smaller book. Like I said, it was written by our actual sales rep. So it's one of those nice books where I know the guy that wrote it, and he's actually a sales rep that is awesome. So if you want to read like real from the streets, from the table, from the guy that's doing it, that's a great book to go read.
Beautiful. What's one advice that made a big impact on your life or business?
Ooh, I struggle a lot with balance, and this goes back to kind of my early years. And so I had to learn the hard way that like balance is actually a really important thing. And so, I don't know, my grandparents, um, when you talk to somebody that's significantly older, they're not talking about that great work meeting they had or that great month that they had hit all their KPIs. They talk about living a great life, and
Hmm.
I think that's really important for me. Is making sure that I maintain balance in my life. So, and I hope for all my team to be able to do that same thing. And so, we take a lot of that approach with things too, which is, hey, I was talking to somebody that works for one of our clients this morning, and he said, "Hey, I left the office at one in the morning yesterday." That's not healthy. If we have to have people that we're grinding till midnight, 1 in the morning constantly to get their job done, something is screwed up somewhere, and that's not a sustainable way for us to run businesses and run companies. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's probably one of the things for me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Steve, this was a great conversation. We talked a lot about different parts of sales and sales management and building a team and mistakes and the rest of it. Is there a question that I didn't ask? And if I did, it would have added value to our conversation and people that are watching or listening?
I don't think so. I mean, I guess just kind of in closing, like, you know, look at your data, look at your data that your business is running with, and I think that's probably one of the things that we see a lot of customers just fail with is making emotional decisions instead of looking at data to help them drive decisions and
Hmm.
letting that data point them in the right direction to where they need to go. And like I said, if you're unhappy with it, change it. That's the only way it's going to get better is by taking action and making a change on it, even if it may not be perfect today. Get moving on it. Get going in the right direction. You can do a lot in 30 days if you have the right attitude and the right people and the right firepower in place to get things done. So if you're not happy with where your business is at today, your life is at today, just do something about it. And in 30 days, you'll probably be amazed where you're going to be.
Amazing. I love the fact what you mentioned about looking at the data. I was working with a client literally yesterday, and they were not happy with their numbers. And we looked at the numbers, and we were actually just 10 grand short of their goal. And we're like, it's actually not bad.
We're doing okay, you know?
You're doing good.
Yeah.
That's the think. I mean, I like to your point, unless you check and look into the things, you don't know what's happening. You got to look at the facts and figures and see exactly what is happening and what is not happening.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't know what to make of the numbers and data, reach out to Steve and say, "Hey, Steve, what does this mean? I have no clue what this means or what is missing."
We're here to
Yeah,
help. I just want to see you win.
absolutely. Um, Steve, where can people find out more about you, get in touch, and learn more about your products and services?
Yeah. So you can either go to www.billiondollarcontractor.com. That's the name of the company. Or I'm very active on LinkedIn. So if you just want to kind of interact and engage with some of the content that I have there, I try and post up every day something that adds value to your life. It's a great place to go to. We also have a great newsletter. So if you're in sales or you're running salespeople, you're managing sales teams, you can check out the tuesdaytuneup.com. Free to sign up. We have nothing to sell you. We just want to see you win and do great. Any of those channels would be a good place to begin.
Beauty. Fantastic. This was a great conversation. Thank you for joining us, gang. Thanks for watching and listening. If you have any questions for me or Steve, put them into comments of the show, and we'll do our best to get back to you. Yeah, like I said, if you know someone that is running a business is running a sales manager or a sales team, and or they need help with their sales, share the links of the interview with them, share the value with them, and if you have any questions, just let us know. You've been listening and watching another episode of the Executive Hub show. Yours truly, Mustafa Hosseini, and my guest, Steve Huber. Hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you on our next episode. Bye now.